Yo YouTube everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today is actually our brand new video on a brand new channel. This is going to be of CDL, where we're going to be going through daily videos all about the CDL news, highlights, old stuff, new stuff, just all to do with the CDL. Hope you guys enjoy the content. So starting off with today, we have a very important topic, SIB. Where does SIB go? So I've got a few kind of thoughts on this. First of all, I think when the rumor came out that SIB was getting dropped or, you know, moving on, it was a bit of a shock to the community. I think rightfully so. I think he was insane towards the end of the year. It was always going to be a weird situation last year with SIB because he's joining a team, right, that they were basically one of the best teams we've seen in the last few years, where on Modern Warfare 2 they managed to win back-to-back events at the end of the year and another major. So they basically won 3 events, right? That is really uncommon in the CDL. It's like, you know, that's just pure domination, something we saw from like Atlanta phase, champs and a major. And if you think about it, they actually did that plus another major. It really was impressive. So when you look at that on the surface, it was one of those situations where even last year, now it's obviously easier now looking back in hindsight because we can kind of see how it all played out, but it was one of those situations where dropping Priester was like, okay, if we don't perform as well, we're going to get criticism. And I think, okay, I had a mad voice break, let's ignore that one. I think to an extent that's obviously not deserved, but it's like the way I personally feel is like winning 2 majors and champs and then the next year not doing the same was never realistic. It's just one of those where they really overperformed in Modern Warfare 2, and I think it was kind of harsh to expect them to do the same thing. Now, I think they were a great team last year at certain points. There were certain times where they won. I think towards the end of the year, they really became better and more like organized as a team, and you saw their true potential. Saying that they won, you know, Major 4, I believe. I can't remember Major 4 or 5. They won one of the majors, and they also came second at champs. So you look at that in a game where basically all the top 4 won a major each, and then Optic won champs. You look at that and say, yes, it wasn't as good as the previous year, but again, I don't know if that was realistic. So my whole point on that was I think SIB was going to get some unfair criticism just based on comparing the 2 years, but I do honestly believe if they kept Priester, I don't think they would have won more than 1 event regardless, right? I think it was one of those where the other teams just pack-a-punched. Optic went from a good team to getting Fred and Kenny. You saw FaZe getting Graza, Toronto getting Envoy, like the whole of LA team splitting up and just becoming basically strengthening the other sides. It was always going to be difficult for NYSL to keep up. So I do think SIB got a little bit of unfair criticism this whole year, kind of just about, oh, you know, with Priester they won this, they won that. So I just wanted to address that at the start because I thought that was a bit harsh, and I think he had a really good year. It started off a little bit slow as a team. They did okay, but as the year went on, he became much more confident with the style and the system. And throughout the end of the year, I have to say, he was definitely the second most consistent player on the team. At times, he was the best, but Hydra was by far the best player for them. But there was definitely no question for me that SIB was their second best player. So pure talent-wise, I don't agree with this decision. Now, again, coming out the next few days after the decision to kind of be dropped or leave, whatever it was, he has been tweeting, and there has been some clips of him playing in the beta with the BZ where he's talking about like the scrim schedule and stuff like that. I'm not sure if you guys have seen that, but he's kind of just addressing the whole environment at NYSL. Now, my point on that as well was like, I do think that was kind of taken out of context again. It was one of those, so I obviously stream myself, right? When you're talking to people and sometimes you may get carried away in the conversation and you might say some things and it gets dragged out slightly, and then it's like that clip can be resurfaced and analyzed, where in the moment, I don't know if he realized that he was going to get clipped. Like, I don't know, maybe he did, maybe he didn't. I still think he should have been more cautious because there was confirmed from D-Row and stuff just saying like this wasn't necessarily true. It was like twice a week sometimes, and it was just the way he said it was like every single day, and then the way it came out was like it wasn't as often, and it stopped after Major 2. So again, just a few kind of things to address there. I do think that I don't think he meant it to be like that. He did kind of address after that it wasn't like supposed to be like that. So I do kind of feel sorry that that clip got out of context and, you know, may cause some sort of issues, but I think it'll be fine. But anyways, in terms of where does SIB go? So like I said, I wanted to address that first part of my opinion. I think he was a great player, and I do believe there were some internal issues maybe with the system or something, but I just felt like maybe the team didn't feel like his work is, I don't know, it's something, there was something clearly off that they didn't want, or there was some sort of disconnect because we don't know the ins and outs, and I'm not going to sit here and say we do, but I think it's quite obvious it wasn't a talent thing. That's how I'm going to end it there. So that's kind of the history of NYSL and how they got to this point. So yeah, like I said, I don't think it was a talent thing. I think it was purely a team element, whether it's him and a certain player. We have no idea. We have no idea. I'm not really going to get into that. That's not really my issue or anything. I want to worry about where he's going to go, his options. So the first and obvious option for me, team of scrap. First and obvious, team of scrap. Now, if you can get this team sorted, somehow you get Scrap and SIB, you are having probably the, well, I'm going to say the best AR combo in the league, man. I'm not going to lie. Like, in terms of pure slaying, you're not getting a better AR duo than that. Now, obviously, there's a role issue, this and that, wherever they're pretty similar, like slay heavy ARs, but I do think these top players will be able to work it out. Do I think that's the best AR duo? Again, I think there's certain team combinations. So a lot of people look at AR duos. You look at your Draza, your Selly, and you got your pacing differences, right? You look at your Kenny, your Dashi, your pacing differences. Dashi this year was a bit more of a objective base, hill kitting, kind of doing that dirty work, allowing his SMGs to kind of flow forward. But you look at someone like Scrappy, right? He wasn't playing like that. Scrappy was more damage based, more of that slayer, allowing his other teammates to take those routes, play the objective. So I do think it comes down to team combination. I think this can work, having two slay based ARs if your SMGs are able to take that other role, right? It really depends on the game. Now, Black Ops 6, the game we're looking at does look very aggressive, so I think this could potentially work. As for Black Ops 6, I don't think it's the end of the world having these two as your ARs, but I think what you really have to look at is there's potentially going to be 3 subs for a lot of the maps. I think the meta this year will be very different to last year, and we are going to see more of a sub-heavy game. So I think it really depends, but I don't see a problem with someone like Scrap, or to be honest, Scrap, like he did it on Rio, like pulling out that 3rd sub if needed. But I think it depends on the comfortability of the players and stuff like that. So for me, that's a good option, right? Obviously, why would you not want a team with Scrap? Amazing player. But there is a lot of contract situation at Toronto Ultra. Things are kind of up in the air. I don't know if they're going to give the bag to SIB like that. I do think that'll be a bit tricky. So that is more of a on paper kind of roster. I don't think that's a realistic one. So the roster I'm going to go with that I think makes the most sense, I've been seeing on the timeline, and I think this will be pretty disgusting. Ghosty, Joe. They're an LA Thieves. Kremp and Nasty rumored to be gone. They've removed it from their bio. I think that's basically confirmed. They have 2 slots. If you bring in SIB and Envoy, which is the rumor, that is a disgusting roster. That is a disgusting roster. If I'm SIB right now, that is potentially even more attractive than the Toronto offer, specifically because everything's kind of up in the air there. We don't know where Envoy's going, Kleenex. We don't really know what's going on with Toronto. I'm looking at it from my perspective. If I was a player, like, would I want to play with Thieves, right? Let's just say these are the options. Do I want to play with Ghosty, Envoy, and Joe Deceives? Or do I want to play with Scrappy? Now, the reason why I'm not too keen on the Scrappy thing is because I think they're going to try their best, Cloud9 that is, to get Scrappy themselves. So if that's the case, then Toronto for me is kind of off the table, because Scrappy is a kind of key mega player there that I would like to play with. So I do think the main option for SIB, #1 priority for me, would probably be to get on Thieves. And I think his stock's high. He played really well. I think that's a possibility. You got Ghosty, who was unbelievable last year. This guy gets some slaying backup. I think you have a very, very good team. Envoy, Joe. I like the SMG duo. I really do. Joe, I think, is a very, very good player. I really liked him towards the end of the year. I think he really stepped up his game, and you could see the potential coming out, especially at EWC. I just remember that streak against FaZe on High Rise. I'm like, this kid can play, man. This kid can really play. There were just times throughout the year I'm like, this kid can really play. I think he'll be a really, really good asset for them next year. Another year, another belt, more experience. So for me personally, if I'm looking at SIB, I'm like, there's only 2 options. If somehow Toronto managed to keep Scrap, maybe you try and go there, you try to build something there. Again, quite unlikely. That's be a lot of dominoes to fall that way, simply because of just contract issues and everything else. And I don't know if they're going to keep Scrap, and if they do, can they even get SIB? I don't know how the contracts will work there, because that will be obviously 2 basically superstar players on massive contracts, which I don't know if that's going to be the case. Looks like they're going through a bit of a rebuilding phase, but we're not too sure about that. But my one option would be, if I'm SIB, try to get on Thieves. Good place. You're definitely going to be in your top 5 consideration. I'm not going to lie, that team, if they catch fire at the right time, there's no reason why they can't make a run at a major, potentially even steal one. I think if you're looking at the other teams, that you got Optic and obviously FaZe, right, as your top 2. I think with NYSL, there is a definite case for the last few years of starting off a little bit slow and then kind of picking it up. I think we saw that even in Modern Warfare 2, where they won back-to-back events, right? I'm pretty sure the first event they came at last. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure they came last and then they won the next event. So they do have a thing about starting off slow. This year we saw they started off slow. I think they came last again this year at the start, like pretty bad start. So you do have a potential of catching them kind of slipping at certain times. You even look at last year, I mean, EWC, I mean, they got to the grand final, so they're not a million miles away right now. They're really not, especially with the format we're currently having in the CDL. You only have to beat like one top team potentially to make it to top to the Sundays. Like, there's normally a few upsets, especially later part of the season, where you're probably only beating one top team, which they did. They beat Toronto at the end of the year, right? And then they made it to the grand final. So with this team, with this kind of potential of talent, I don't see a problem with it. So that's going to be my final takes on SIB's kind of moves. There's only one real move I see him making, and that's going to be two LA Thieves with Ghosty, Envoy, and Joe. Honestly, nothing else in my mind really sticks out. There is a potential team member like Gwyn. There's definitely a few options out there. There's a few talented players kind of around the boat, but if you're looking at an all-round project that's already shown some potential, you go in automatically, you kind of slot yourself in that system. You're like, you know what, I can make this team better. I do believe Thieves is his only kind of a top option. So yeah, YouTube, hope you guys enjoyed the video, the new style, the new channel. Make sure to subscribe on the channel if you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll catch you guys for another one tomorrow. Peace.